G'day everyone, welcome to the How to Halo Magnum tutorial. Now this tutorial is going to be split into 3 parts. The first will be basic templating and transferring onto the foam, the second will be basic detail, and then the third one will be the more advanced detailing and really bringing that prop to life. And so you don't miss any of the parts, they'll all share the same thumbnail, so you should be able to find them easy. Plus there'll be a link at the end of the video to the next part or the previous if you wish. So this is the final result that you should be getting from this tutorial. This tutorial was filmed, processing and documenting the exact stages I went through in creating this prop here. This is exactly the same one. So to help you guys out, I've actually created my own Magnum template. This can be downloaded from my Dropbox, which you can find a link to that in the description box below. It's safe, there's no viruses, it's just strictly a JPEG put onto A4 size paper. So when you go into your printer, just easily make it a landscape, print it out, and you'll be ready to kick off where the video starts in about 20 seconds. So I hope you guys have fun with this. This is made for beginners and more advanced people who want to just hone their skills. So everyone should get a good crack at trying this, and let's give it a shot. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your basic template and you're going to cut out the outline. The reason why we cut out the outline is because we're then going to transfer it to the foam. So rather than cutting out all the individual details, just go ahead like I'm doing in the video and go around the object nice and carefully so you keep all the detail intact. So then what we're going to do is hopefully you should have your template cut out and it should be looking something like this. Nice and trimmed and still has all the detail intact. Well, now what you're going to do is you're going to go cut out all the individual details to look something a bit more like this one here. So hopefully you can have all these individual shapes cut out, because we're going to save them and use them for a different part and a different time in the video. So now using the original template that you cut out, you're going to go ahead and place it carefully onto the block of foam and slowly trace around the outline. This will then be used to allow us to cut out the block and start the actual design. So it should look something like this. Hopefully you guys have it laid down and it does look somewhat like this. I advise using a pen just because it doesn't create too dark of lines and it won't dent the foam. And then you're going to have to create a safety area which looks something like this. It's about ½ an inch thick around the perimeter of the outline, which gives us some space and some leeway when carving. So now that you have your safety area, I advise doing your best to cut down on a straight angle. Of course it's a bit hard when you're cutting through a 40mm block, but do your best. That's why we have the ½ an inch worth of a safety area, so if you do happen to cut in on an angle, it shouldn't be too drastic, as that ½ an inch usually does save it from hitting the actual design. So hopefully after that you should now have your design sitting in a block form, nice and somewhat trimmed around the safety area, looking like this. Now what happens next is going to be the more difficult part, and usually is the most difficult part of these styrofoam builds, because we're not doing it by machine, we have to do it by hand, which does allow for some error and risk to your design. So now a key tip when cutting out this excess foam is to cut out with angled slices. This allows the blade to always be passing on the exterior side of your design, so therefore technically it shouldn't make its way in. As you can see here, a bit more of a visual as to what I mean. If it's going outwards, it's never going to come in and harm your design or make it off center. So using that, go around slowly and take your time. It is quite key that you get this as close to being right as possible, as it will set up your design for how it looks in the end. So go around like I'm doing here, slowly keep it nice and clean, as straight as possible, until you've cut all the edges off, and then we can flip it around and we can start trying to mirror the design on the other sheet of foam on the other side. Now when you get to a point where you've done it all, you're going to need to transfer the lines across the other side. Now I use a Pokemon card purely because it's a nice, small, clean, right-angled line. You can use whatever you want, a small ruler if you wish, but your objective here is to take across any corner and mirror it around to the other side, which is going to allow us to anchor the template, which we used originally, onto the other side, because of course the other side doesn't have the template at the moment. It's just a blank piece of foam where you don't even know where any of the points could meet. So this is a key little technique to allow us to join the dots, so to speak, to allow us to transfer that template onto the other side, so we can then have a nice symmetrical design which we can then start carving into. So once you've brought across most of the lines, we can then start trying to figure out where this template should sit. So what you want to do is you want to kind of put the template on, kind of match it up with some of those lines you've drawn across, and kind of pretty much guess, or an educated guess, on where it should best fit, and then go ahead and trace around the object, and that should hopefully have a close to symmetrical appearance, enough that the visual eye won't notice, and you guys should then be easy enough to completely repeat the process, my apologies, and carve out those angled cuts again until you get it looking nice and flat, and we're ready to get into detail. So with the Magnums, I usually like to start from the back and work my way forward. So here we're going to cut out this top center part, which is usually where the ammo ejects from, and we're going to slowly transfer the template onto the foam. So we're just doing this nice little rectangular part up top here, drawing in the nice little blue line. Now here's a little new technique that we're going to have to use. Of course we're going to have to somehow shave away this excess bit of foam, because we want to raise that level down so there is a really nice 3D visual effect going on. So the way we're going to do that is using a bevel technique and then shave. So let's jump into it and I'll show you exactly how we go about doing that. So like I mentioned, we're using a bevel technique. Now as you can see on screen, the little diagram shows a incision down on a 90-degree angle and then coming back in on a 45+ degree. This allows us to chip away the foam to allow us to see the height in which we're carving down into. If you weren't to do this and you were just to cut into the block of foam, you might have a very uneven slope, or you might not get the depth that you were initially intending, and you might have just buggered up your design. So as you can see here, I cut down on a 90-degree angle, then I'm coming back in on an edge, and then I can just chip away that little lip, and it allows me to see where exactly I'm carving into. Once you've done that, you can then start just shaving back the foam carefully, trying to keep it as horizontal and flat as possible to allow a nice smooth design when we eventually sand it. It also pays to be very careful when shaving, because the blades aren't usually made to cut in this manner, so to speak. So there is a risk of them snapping, so be very, very careful. Don't keep your eyes very close, and make sure you always know where your hands are at all times. So now that the detail is starting to build up, as you can see, we're going to start moving on and putting in all these individual crevices, and then of course build up the overall design. But you can now go ahead and click on part 2, where I take you through and we can continue all that. And then part 3 will be down the bottom, so you guys can click on that now if you wish. But otherwise, jump straight into part 2 and let's get going. Any day now. Otherwise, I'm just going to stand here and we're going to time out. Now it's good. Touch it. Come on. Touch. Just touch the part 2. Fine.